Some disappearances seem impossible. A woman leaves campus, drives north through the snowy mountains of New Hampshire, crashes her car on a quiet road, and then vanishes. No confirmed sightings, no phone calls, no body. Just a handful of witnesses, a timeline filled with unanswered questions, and more than 2 decades of speculation. What happened to 21-year-old Maura Murray on the night of February 9, 2004? Despite one of the most talked about missing person investigations in America, no one has been able to answer that question with certainty. This is the story of Maura Murray. To understand the mystery, you first have to understand Maura herself. Born on May 4, 1982, Maura grew up in Hanson, Massachusetts. Friends and family described her as intelligent, athletic, and determined. She excelled in cross-country running and track, developing a reputation for pushing herself harder than most. Her father, Fred Murray, encouraged all of his children to work hard and strive for success. By many accounts, they shared a close relationship. After graduating high school, Maura enrolled at the United States Military Academy at West Point. It was an impressive achievement, but after a little over a year, she transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she began studying nursing. On the surface, her life appeared promising. But by early 2004, several incidents suggested she may have been under increasing stress. On the evening of Thursday, February 5th, Maura was working a security job at her college residence hall. Around 1 a.m., one of her supervisors found her visibly upset. According to reports, she appeared almost catatonic and was crying. When asked what was wrong, she reportedly said just 2 words, "My sister." No further explanation was given. Later, investigators learned that Maura had spoken with her older sister, Kathleen, earlier that evening. Kathleen had been dealing with personal struggles, and some believe their conversation deeply affected Maura. Exactly what was said during that phone call has never been publicly confirmed. Just 2 days later, another strange event occurred. On February 7th, Maura's father visited Amherst. The two spent time together, looked at used cars, had dinner, and later attended a party with friends. That evening, Fred allowed Maura to borrow his new Toyota Corolla. In the early hours of February 8th, while driving back to campus, Maura crashed the vehicle into a guardrail. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured. Police responded to the scene, but Maura declined medical treatment. The damage to the car was significant, but the incident seemed, at least at first, like an unfortunate accident. Her father later said he wasn't angry. Instead, they planned to deal with the insurance and repair the vehicle. It should have been the end of the story. Instead, it became another piece of a much larger puzzle. The following day, Monday, February 9th, Maura's actions became increasingly difficult to explain. At approximately 1 p.m., she emailed her professors and employer. She claimed there had been a death in her family and that she would be away for a week, but investigators later confirmed something unusual. There had been no death in the family. Why Maura told this lie has never been fully explained. Was she simply looking for time away, or was something else going on? That same day, she completed homework assignments, packed many of her belongings, withdrew nearly all the money from her bank account, around $280, and stopped at a liquor store where surveillance cameras captured what would become one of the last known images of her. She purchased several alcoholic beverages, including Bailey's Irish Cream, Kahlua, vodka, and boxed wine. She also bought snacks and filled the gas tank of her black Saturn sedan. Then, without telling friends or family exactly where she was going, Maura left Amherst. No one knows what destination she entered into her mind that afternoon. No one knows exactly why she left, and within hours, she would disappear. In the next chapter, we'll follow Maura's final confirmed journey, minute by minute, as she drives north into the mountains of New Hampshire, where one ordinary car crash becomes one of America's most enduring mysteries. Chapter 2. The Last Confirmed Moments. When Maura Murray left Amherst on the afternoon of February 9, 2004, she appeared to have a destination in mind. but where she intended to go remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the case. Before leaving town, Maura searched online for directions to northern New England. Investigators later discovered she had looked up lodging information in both Vermont and New Hampshire. She had also called a condominium rental line associated with the White Mountains, though it's unclear whether she ever made a reservation. By all appearances, she was planning a short trip. Whether it was meant to clear her head, escape personal stress, or serve another purpose entirely, is something only Maura could have known. As daylight faded, she drove north in her black 1996 Saturn. The route would take her through rural New Hampshire, where narrow roads cut through dense forests and small towns separated by miles of wilderness. Around 7:27 p.m., everything changed. On Route 112 near the town of Haverhill, Maura's Saturn failed to navigate a sharp curve known locally as Weathered Barn Corner. The car slid off the road and came to rest against a snowbank. Unlike the accident just 2 nights earlier, this crash would become the last confirmed location where Maura was ever seen. A local resident named Butch Atwood was driving a school bus home when he noticed the crashed vehicle. He stopped to check on the driver. According to Atwood, he spoke with a young woman matching Maura's description. She appeared shaken, but not seriously injured. He later told investigators that she declined his offer to call for help. Instead, she insisted she had already contacted roadside assistance. But Atwood found that explanation unusual. Cell phone coverage in that area was unreliable in 2004, and he doubted she could have made a call from that location. Believing she might still need assistance, Atwood drove the short distance to his nearby home and called 911. It was a decision that would unknowingly set the timeline for one of the most debated disappearances in modern history. While Atwood was on the phone with dispatchers, another nearby resident reported seeing the crashed Saturn from inside their home. They noticed activity around the vehicle, but couldn't make out every detail in the darkness. What happened over the next several minutes has become the focus of endless discussion. Police records indicate that the first responding officer arrived only a short time after the 911 call. But when the officer reached the crash site, the driver was gone. The Saturn remained where it had crashed. Its hazard lights were no longer flashing. The doors were locked. Inside the vehicle, officers found personal belongings, school books, clothing, and some of the alcohol Maura had purchased earlier that day. Investigators also observed what appeared to be red liquid inside the car and on the snow nearby. At first glance, it looked alarming, but the substance was later believed to be spilled boxed wine. There were no obvious signs of a violent struggle, no footprints leading clearly into the woods that investigators could immediately follow, no indication that another vehicle had been involved in the crash. Most importantly, there was no sign of Maura Murray. The timeline between Butch Atwood's conversation with the driver and the arrival of the first police officer is estimated to have been only a matter of minutes. Exactly how many has been the subject of debate over the years, but whatever happened, it happened quickly. Did Maura walk away from the crash to avoid another encounter with police after her recent accident? Did someone driving by offer her a ride? Or did something else happen entirely? At that moment, no one at the scene could have imagined that the missing driver would never be conclusively found. As officers searched the immediate area that evening, they expected to locate a stranded college student somewhere nearby. Instead, the hours turned into days, the days turned into weeks, and the search for Maura Murray had only just begun. Chapter 3. The Search. When officers arrived at the crash site that night, they believed they were looking for someone who had simply wandered away from a disabled car. No one imagined they were witnessing the beginning of one of America's most enduring missing person cases. Within hours, local police began searching the area around Route 112. Given the freezing February temperatures, time was critical. If Maura had walked into the surrounding forest and become lost, the odds of surviving the night would have been slim. The next morning, the search intensified. Teams of officers, firefighters, volunteers, and trained search and rescue personnel combed the area surrounding the crash site. They were joined by tracking dogs, helicopters, and aircraft equipped with infrared imaging. Investigators focused on the roads, nearby homes, frozen streams, and the dense woods surrounding the crash. One of the most significant tools used during the search was a tracking dog. The dog was given a scent from a pair of Maura's gloves. It followed the scent for roughly 100 yards east along Route 112 before abruptly stopping in the middle of the road. To many investigators, this suggested one possibility. If the dog was accurately following Maura's trail, the scent ending in the roadway could indicate that she entered another vehicle. However, scent tracking is far from an exact science. Weather conditions, passing traffic, and the amount of time that has passed can all affect a dog's ability to follow a trail. As a result, investigators have always treated this clue as informative, but not conclusive. Meanwhile, search teams made another puzzling observation. Despite the fresh snow, they found no clear trail of footprints leading deep into the surrounding woods. If Maura had fled on foot through the forest, many expected she would have left obvious tracks. The absence of those tracks became one of the strongest arguments against the theory that she simply wandered into the wilderness. Still, investigators couldn't completely rule it out. Snow conditions, wind, and earlier foot traffic could have altered the scene before the larger search began. The crash site itself offered only limited clues. Inside Maura's Saturn, police found textbooks, clothing, personal belongings, and some of the alcohol she had purchased earlier that day. A rag had been stuffed into the vehicle's tailpipe. At first, this unusual detail raised questions. Why would someone place a rag in the exhaust pipe? Later, Maura's father explained that he had advised her to do this temporarily because the Saturn had mechanical problems and smoked from the exhaust. Automotive experts have since noted that plugging a tailpipe isn't considered a proper repair and can create additional problems, but investigators generally viewed the rag as unrelated to her disappearance rather than evidence of foul play. Beyond the car itself, there was little physical evidence. No signs of a struggle, no blood, no discarded personal items, no confirmed surveillance footage showing where Maura went after the crash. It was as though the trail simply ended. As days passed with no breakthroughs, investigators began interviewing anyone who might have seen something that evening. Residents living along Route 112 described hearing emergency vehicles, noticing the crashed car, or seeing lights outside their windows. But no witness could say with certainty what happened after Maura disappeared from sight. The case quickly attracted regional media attention, then national attention. Tips poured in from across the country. Some claimed they had seen Maura in nearby towns. Others believed she had started a new life under a different identity. Many of these leads were investigated. None produced definitive answers. As weeks turned into months, hope of finding Maura alive began to fade. Yet, investigators refused to close the case. Instead, they continued revisiting the evidence, conducting additional searches of the surrounding area, and following new leads whenever they emerged. But with each passing year, one question only became more difficult to answer. Did Maura disappear by choice? Did she accept a ride from a stranger after the crash? Or did something happen in those few unaccounted for minutes before police arrived? The evidence offered possibilities, it offered theories, but it offered very few certainties. And that uncertainty would fuel decades of debate, making the disappearance of Maura Murray one of the most analyzed and most misunderstood missing person cases in modern history. Chapter 4. The Theories. More than 20 years after Maura Murray disappeared, investigators have never announced a definitive explanation for what happened. Without conclusive physical evidence, the case has given rise to countless theories. Some are supported by pieces of evidence, others rely almost entirely on speculation. To understand why this mystery remains unsolved, it's important to separate what is known from what people believe may have happened. Theory 1. She entered the woods. One of the earliest theories was also the simplest. After crashing her car, Maura may have panicked and left the scene on foot. Just 2 nights earlier, she had been involved in another car accident. If she had consumed alcohol before driving, she may have feared facing legal consequences. Supporters of this theory believe she ran into the nearby forest to avoid police, became disoriented in the freezing temperatures, and ultimately died from exposure. Cases of hypothermia can produce unusual behavior. People suffering from extreme cold sometimes continue walking despite exhaustion or seek shelter in places that are difficult to discover. At first glance, the theory seems plausible, but it has one major problem. Extensive searches of the area failed to locate Maura or any confirmed trace of her. Over the years, search teams returned to the region multiple times using trained dogs, helicopters, cadaver dogs, and improved search techniques. Despite covering large sections of the surrounding wilderness, no confirmed evidence has ever been found. While it's impossible to completely rule out this theory, many investigators believe the lack of physical evidence makes it increasingly difficult to support. Theory 2. She accepted a ride. Another widely discussed possibility is that Maura left the crash scene in another vehicle. This theory is partly supported by the tracking dog's scent trail, which appeared to end in the roadway rather than continuing into the forest. If the scent accurately reflected Maura's movements, it could suggest she entered a passing car. The question is, who was driving? Route 112 is a relatively quiet road, but vehicles did pass through the area that evening. It's possible someone offered Maura a ride, believing they were helping a stranded motorist. If that happened, the driver may have simply dropped her off somewhere else. But another possibility is far more troubling. Some believe Maura may have encountered someone who intended to harm her. Investigators have explored this possibility for years. However, no publicly available evidence has identified a suspect or linked a specific individual to her disappearance. Without additional evidence, the theory remains exactly that, a possibility. Theory 3. She chose to disappear. Because Maura had searched for accommodations in northern New England, emailed professors claiming there had been a death in the family, and withdrew most of the money from her bank account, some have wondered whether she intended to disappear voluntarily. On the surface, those actions can seem unusual. But investigators have never uncovered evidence that she successfully started a new life. There have been no verified financial transactions after February 9, 2004. No confirmed communications, no authenticated sightings. In today's world, disappearing completely for more than 2 decades without leaving a trace would be extraordinarily difficult. While the theory continues to circulate online, investigators have never publicly stated that they believe Maura intentionally vanished. Theory 4. Foul play after the crash. Perhaps the most widely discussed theory is that Maura encountered someone after leaving her vehicle and became the victim of a crime. Supporters point to the narrow timeline between the crash and the arrival of police. In just a matter of minutes, Maura disappeared without a trace. If someone stopped during that brief window, they may have persuaded her to get into their vehicle or forced her inside. Over the years, several individuals have attracted public attention through rumors or online speculation. Some owned property nearby, others had criminal histories. But despite years of investigation, none of these rumors have resulted in criminal charges or publicly disclosed evidence tying a suspect to Maura's disappearance. It's a reminder of how easily speculation can outpace facts in a case that has remained unsolved for so long. More than anything, the investigation has shown just how few certainties exist. Every major theory explains some pieces of the puzzle. None explains all of them. And that is precisely why the disappearance of Maura Murray continues to fascinate investigators, journalists, and the public more than 2 decades later. Because despite thousands of hours of investigation, the most important question still has no answer. What happened to Maura Murray after she walked away from her crashed car? Chapter 5. An unfinished story. More than 2 decades have passed since Maura Murray disappeared on that cold February night in New Hampshire. In that time, the world has changed dramatically. Technology has transformed criminal investigations. DNA analysis has solved decades-old cold cases. Digital records have helped investigators reconstruct events once thought impossible to piece together. And yet, the disappearance of Maura Murray remains unsolved. Over the years, investigators have conducted multiple searches of the area surrounding Route 112. Cadaver dogs have searched the woods. Ground-penetrating radar has been used in selected locations. Properties have been examined. New tips have been investigated, and evidence has been reviewed repeatedly. Despite these efforts, no confirmed trace of Maura has ever been found. Her family has never stopped searching. Her father, Fred Murray, has spent years pushing for answers, organizing searches, speaking with investigators, and keeping public attention focused on the case. Other family members have done the same, determined to ensure Maura is not forgotten. As time passed, the mystery reached far beyond New Hampshire. Television documentaries, books, podcasts, online forums, and countless YouTube videos have examined every known detail of the case. For some, the disappearance became an obsession. Entire communities began analyzing maps, timelines, witness statements, and police reports, hoping to notice something investigators had missed. This level of public interest has kept the case in the spotlight. But it has also created a challenge. Over the years, facts have often become mixed with rumors. Online discussions have produced countless theories, many based on little or no evidence. Innocent people have sometimes found themselves the subject of public suspicion, despite never being charged or publicly linked to the case by investigators. It's an important reminder that while speculation can keep a mystery alive, it can also complicate the search for the truth. Today, law enforcement continues to classify Maura's disappearance as an active investigation. Authorities have never publicly concluded whether she died from exposure, accepted a ride from a passing motorist, became the victim of a crime, or experienced something else entirely. Each possibility remains just that, a possibility. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the case isn't what we know. It's what we don't. Somewhere between the moment Butch Atwood drove away to call 911 and the arrival of the first responding officer, Maura Murray vanished. That window lasted only a few minutes, yet those few minutes have resisted explanation for more than 20 years. Maybe the answer still exists in a forgotten memory, a witness who dismissed something they saw as unimportant, a conversation someone never reported, or a piece of evidence that is yet to be discovered. History has shown that cold cases are not impossible to solve. Advances in forensic science continue to uncover answers that once seemed permanently out of reach. Families who spent decades waiting for the truth have finally received it. For the Murray family, that hope remains. Until new evidence emerges, the final chapter of Maura's story has yet to be written. One thing, however, is certain. On February 9, 2004, a 21-year-old nursing student disappeared after a car crash on a quiet stretch of Route 112. Everything that happened after that remains one of the greatest unanswered mysteries in modern American criminal history. If someone knows what happened that night, the truth has remained hidden for over 20 years. But mysteries don't stay unsolved forever. Sometimes, all it takes is one new clue, one forgotten witness, one piece of evidence, and everything changes. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary informative, consider subscribing for more carefully researched stories exploring unsolved mysteries, historical investigations, and the cases that continue to puzzle investigators around the world. Until next time, stay curious.